What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi Gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today, Guardians, we're going to be running you through a nice quick guide for y'all to get that exotic trace rifle, the Microcosm, which is actually doing kinetic damage, even though it is in our heavy slot, with two very good perks that allow this thing to absolutely annihilate some of those tormentors, especially the shoulders and even those subjugators. Seems like this thing absolutely destroys them. So we're going to cover everything y'all need to know, as well as go over this perks for grabbing this banger first trace rifle in our exotic slot for the heavy realm, as well as a kinetic on top of that. So starting us out with the quest, you do have to finish off the final shape campaign, whether it be the legendary or the normal version. This is because we have to unlock the ability to head on over to Micah 1 in the Arbor of Light right here, with that old classic Guardian that helped us come out of retirement to beat the Witness. They have a bunch of different quests for us after the campaign finishes, which leads us to be able to get the actual quest for the Microcosm. So you will have to pick up the Destined Heroes for the Ergo Sum. That is the step 1, complete the Queen's Part 1. So this is also just a mission that you can find after you beat the campaign right here in the tower. It is just one of these orange little flags that are standing there. You can start it up, helps to give out some of those fragments and aspects for our prismatic, plus you have to defeat that first Queen's Part 1 step for the Ergo Sum quest. I do have a full guide on that, so you can grab it whenever, but that will allow Micah 1 to give you more quests, which there will be 3 of them that are pretty easy to grab that we have to do first before we get the exotic quest, which is called Convalescence Budding. So the 3 quests that you get from Micah 1 that lead us to the exotic quest are all convalences. They are rootbound. We have to find ghosts in all of these. So we have 3, the rootbound, the underbrush, as well as our last one is called the greenery. So there are 3 different things that we're going to have to go into to find these ghosts, and then we bring them back to the Arbor of Light, and it's basically helping the traveler cleanse all of these different areas around, as well as those ghosts that have been lost to the Witness and such like that. So when you pick up the first one, Convalescence Rootbound, it'll have you go through, which you can pick these all up at once. I am pretty sure I did at least, so I had them all 3 just after you progress far enough by beating that Queen's Part 1. But the first one, that Rootbound, you head on over to the Forgotten Deep Lost Sector in the landing and progress basically through the entire Lost Sector until you come to the very end. Instead of grabbing the chest, there will be a large tree kind of back from where the chest is. There will be a ghost sitting on the floor there. You go and grab it and then take it back to the Arbor of Light, deposit it, talk to Micah 1, you complete that quest, as well as you get a reward of a Pale Heart weapon. The second covalence mission here is called Underbrush. This time we actually have to get a Flickering Blessing mod for the traveler. This comes from any of our chests around the Pale Heart, but those special ones that help you with the Pathfinder, that nice reward progression system, they have a higher chance of granting these blessing mods. So you just go around basically farming the chests on the Pale Heart, go grab yourself a wombo combo until you get one of those flickering blessing mods. Then you are able to actually put these blessing mods up in this little section here next to the Pathfinder, which then you can go use. It gives you various things, ammo, melee, etc. like that for different types of defeats. Once you grab that flickering blessing and then put it in via this little menu right here so it can be used, you will actually be able to update that quest, head back to the Arbor of Light, speak to Micah 10 again, and once again you'll get a nice new Pale Heart weapon with only one of these covalents left to go before that nice exotic part of this mission. So last but not least, that covalence greenery. This leads us into into being able to unlock the Sys missions from Michael 1. There are 6 of them around in the 3 different areas that we have inside of the Pale Heart. So once you go through, it is a little bit of a step to get into these Sys missions. You need to unlock overthrow chests in the landing first. So this is just by completing each of those different steps. So there's like 1, 2, 3, and then you go through the boss. Usually when you get through that 3rd tier right before the boss, you don't have to beat that final tier to progress this step, but that is the first one. Overthrow chests need to be opened inside of the landing. Once you get that, you will see a little way marker pop up on your map, which leads you to the cyst that we need to do. It's basically like a lost sector, but there will be certain tasks inside of this. Like the first one that we had to do is called the sword dance cyst. So you break the 3 hive symbols to go in there, and then once you're in there, clear ads just like normal, but there will be a sword that you are able to pick up, break certain crystals that you can't hit unless you have the sword, as well as some enemies that are also shielded that you can only hit with the sword. Go through it just like a normal lost sector, keep on progressing until you get back to the final hive. Once you get that, it'll allow you to go and finish this little Sys mission. You head back over to the Arbor of Light, speak with that Micah 10 one final time, and you will be awarded with a Pale Heart weapon, as well as unlocking that exotic mission called Convalescing Budding. So this is where it becomes a little bit tricky because, in my opinion, having a microphone for this part helps, but we also got it without it, just so I could show you guys that you don't need to be upset about this being another little mission part that you have to go in with other people, because there's some different modifiers in these missions. So once you unlock that Covalence Budding, you have to go through 3 different missions from the campaign. The last 3, Ascent, Descent, and then Iconoclasm, which is where we take on that Witness. Now, the little thing inside of these missions, I personally thought that they were easier than the Legendary campaign, but each of them have little things in it that make it slightly harder, where the communication kind of comes into play. Like I said, we did it with text chat, typing down there when we were getting close to dying because of the buff, as well as just timing it out with each other for doing the other part of this mission. So the first thing y'all should be wary about is called Witness Fracturing. So you can see on the left hand side of my screen and above that I have this Witness Fractures a Guardian. It is basically just ticking your health, not ticking your health I should say, but it is counting up from 1 all the way up to 10. If you hit 10 on the timer, your Guardian will die, so that becomes important in those revive restricted sections, because you will only have 1 of them each, so you can't continuously die in those certain sections. But all you got to do is, when you get up to about 7 or 8, tell your teammate to come and take it off of you. They actually can't take it off of you. It says immovable until it reaches 7 on the timer. So from 7, 8, and 9, other Guardians can grab it from you. But you just got to keep switching that buff around consistently, basically throughout each one of these missions, besides that last one when you're fighting the Witness, because there is a lot going on already, so you don't got to worry about that as much, but we still got to deal with a couple of these other little things that changed. The second thing that changed in these 3 missions is we have the Berserkers. If you don't know where these are from, one of our old raids way back in the day with that good old Anarchy, we were able to use these things where you got to be really close to this enemy. It'll melee you or kind of push you back inside of that bubble. You have to be inside of it, and then simultaneously someone has to shoot the back of that enemy as well as the front of that enemy, and it'll basically stun it, so then you can do damage on it and that little shield will drop. It'll become unstunned, but you are good to go, because that little shield, like I said, got dropped by shooting it in the chest and back at the same time. Usually when you have to defeat one of these Berserkers, that means that somewhere in the area there's going to be 2 darkness crystals or cruxes that you have to shoot at the same time. So again, we just emoted when we were ready to shoot them, but once you shoot the 2 crystals at the same time, that'll progress you to the next part of the mission, or whatever it may be for that certain mission, unlocking XYZ, a next room, unlocking a chest, unlocking another enemy to fight, anything like that. But just know the Berserkers, get in close, make him melee, shoot him in the chest and the back at the same time. You can defeat them, and then just look out out for those 2 darkness crystals around that you have to shoot at the same exact time. Now, the last thing that's different about these missions is called Glyphtouched. So in those certain areas where you got to defeat, whether it be those wyverns or those big gigantic knights with the axes, and they will drop a certain glyph, only 2 people will be able to see those dropped glyphs, and then the third one is the one that actually go and collect the ones to nullify them, if that makes sense. So the ones that the enemy drops is the other 2 guardians, and then the ones that you actually have to step on to nullify is what the Glyphtouched person can see. So they just have to be ready for whatever symbols the other 2 guardians call out. They have to look at the ones in front of them, like you could see in this room here. They were underneath killing those knights. All they had to do was call out which 2 were activated after they dropped from those 2 different knights. Then I went and touched them. They were able to be nullified. Then we can do damage on the ogre like we were here with the shield, or I guess the shield would pop up and then we could do damage, but the same basic thing throughout these different missions. There are just different enemies that drop them, like I said, between the wyverns, between the gigantic knights, etc. So just be watching out for that Glyphtouched, who has it versus who doesn't, because that'll depend on who can read the different glyphs around the map. But besides that, the missions are exactly the same. Like I said, and nothing too crazy from them. I thought they were easier than the legendary version in my personal opinion, but there's just those little extra things, the Berserkers, the Glyphtouch, and the fracture that you got to worry about. So not too shabby for grabbing this thing. You're basically doing the majority of them after the campaign anyways, because unlocking those sis missions, going to find that little ghost, as well as getting those flickering mods, just kind of happen, if I'm being serious, as you're walking around. So you just got to make sure you go talk to Micah 1 and get all of those quests as soon as you beat that Queen's Part 1, so you can get the Microcosm unlocked and that Convalescence missions. Now, the Microcosm itself right here, like I said, is absolutely disgusting for some of those unshielded combatants where they have like the shoulders, the tormentors, the subjugators. I don't know why this thing absolutely eats, but that paracausal beam of kinetic light absolutely destroys them. The shoulders on tormentors literally stand no chance. On top of that, we have paracausal imbuement. We get super energy from final blows with this, plus we get bonus damage after our super expires. So if we're using any super really and it comes to an end, we're going to get bonus damage on this, plus it deals massive damage to shields. So that's why the shoulders on enemies pop off really fast. But this thing, really like it. Definitely taking it into that dual destiny mission quite a bit. Like I said, at the end it fries those subjugators for some reason, and it just feels so right to me. I'm not sure how y'all like this weapon, but I am really enjoying it, seeing what other things I can come up with for builds with this. Definitely a little bit of a niche gun, if you will, per character wise builds, I should say, but for like end game activities, I think it's going to be really good with a Cenotaph Warlock, as I'm pretty sure that you're going to be able to pair it like that. But on the flip side of that, you're not going to get heavy, and this is heavy ammo, so be a little bit careful of that. Either way, hopefully this guide helped you guys out, go through all those different missions, showed you guys where that ghost was inside of the lost sector, showed you guys the flickering light on those mods, and then last we went through those missions. So hopefully this helped. I appreciate all you guys for coming back to the channel. It means a lot. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't. Very good to get those notifications so you don't miss out on any of these builds or guides that we put out for weapons like this. So again, appreciate all you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.